Good morning, everybody. It's just after, I think it's just before 8:30 actually, and I'm just rushed down to my office here to pick up a few things. I'm on my way to Auckland University for midday when the Right Honourable Winston Peters will be speaking from the quad there at Auckland University to the student body about New Zealand First policy, predominantly regarding tertiary education, which most of you will know. We launched a very progressive tertiary education policy in August last year at our AGM. Then I've got to fly down to Wellington because I have an event this evening, and then obviously it's a parliamentary week starting tomorrow. So now, I said that starting this week, every single day with one of these videos, I would cover a piece of policy of New Zealand First. Because there are so many pieces, particularly in education, but also around some of my other portfolio areas like women, communications, broadcasting, IT, that we have really strong policy on, then unfortunately we can't rely on the mainstream media to communicate that to you, the voting public. So I was going to explain a bullet point a day as we head towards 23rd of September, and I've asked you to spread it. So if you think that this is a policy that other people should know about so that they can judge it against other political parties, then I'm asking you to share it across your networks. And that way, New Zealand First can bypass the mainstream media who like to keep us in a particular box, which is that we only do anything for old people. So, the first policy I want to talk about today is bullet point number 1. It has, since 2011, it has been the beginning of our compulsory sector being primary and secondary education, the compulsory sector of our education policy. And that is to review the Education Act 1989 by having a nationwide educational conversation. Now, that might sound lovey-dovey and fluffy, etc., but it's the type of conversation that was used in this country to create the New Zealand curriculum. It was done well, it was coordinated properly, it involved everybody inside that sector with regard to the teaching profession to create what is a world-leading curriculum. People come to this country to look at our curriculum. The problem with the curriculum is that this government has stifled it being implemented how it was supposed to be, but we'll get onto that later. So, this is a nationwide conversation with parental voice, student voice, the voice of business, the voice of the teaching profession, similar to what Finland did a long time ago to set a 30-year vision for education in their country so that no matter what government, politicians didn't interfere with the delivery of education because the country had made a decision about what the direction of it was. And the first question in my mind that would be the leading question of any educational conversation across New Zealand would be, what does success look like for New Zealand children? What does success look like for Kiwi kids as Kiwi kids? Not American kids, not UK kids, not Chinese children, not African children. What does it look like for New Zealand children? For those with the heritage background that we have in this nation, living inside the society that we create. And the reason why I believe passionately that this conversation is what needs to take place is not only has Finland given us the example that it can be done, and we can step politicians out of the classroom and leave our teaching professionals, because they are professionals, inside the classroom delivering on that vision for the nation. The reason why I'm so passionate about it is that in my time on boards of trustees, I've had to have these conversations in small pockets with my own community as we have created our school charters. And that was one of the first questions we asked as a school. When I was at the primary school particularly, what does success look like to you, the parent? What does it look like to you, the student? What does a successful 6-year-old look like? What does a successful 16-year-old look like? And what interested me was that the words and the themes that came back from our parental body and our student body, nobody mentioned numeracy and literacy. They mentioned confident, passionate about something, resilience. We have a crisis of anxiety inside our secondary schools. Our children are not resilient enough to meet failure and get back up again and have another go. They wanted them to be good citizens. They wanted them to be able to work as a team. They wanted them to have a holistic concept of how successful they were, that it wasn't all marked on a single score to a national standard or any other test. Those were the things that our parental body, our student body, our teaching sector, those were the things that they came back with to measure success. So that's the big, the first bullet point in New Zealand First policy is an educational discussion, an educational hui if you want to call it, across New Zealand so that we decide what does success look like for our young people. And then we step down, the next part of the conversation is how would we deliver it and how would we measure it in a summative way or a formative way. Now, I'm not going to get into that sort of part of things, but that's the first bullet point, an educational conversation across New Zealand to decide what success looks like, and then we move on to the implementation. Kia ora, see you tomorrow.